Hi, I'm Russell Tammany for Twit, and today I'm reviewing the Sony NEX-7. This is a compact interchangeable lens camera with 24.7 megapixels, and it's very highly anticipated. This is actually my personal camera. I pre-ordered it all the way back in August of 2011. So this camera is priced for the body only at $11.99, and for the kit lens with the 18 to 55 optically stabilized lens at $13.49. Now, I did not choose the kit lens, so the lens that I actually purchased with this camera is the Zeiss 24mm f1.8 lens. This lens does not have stabilization, but it's still very fast and very clear. Let me go over the features of this camera. So it's got a 24.7 megapixel sensor, and the native ISO goes from 100 to 16,000. So because of the very large APS-C sensor, it's basically the same size of sensor that you'll get in a regular DSLR. This gives you a very high quality DSLR level picture in a very small and slim body. So while this camera is very small, it's still not a pocket-sized camera. And a lot of people online have been saying the NEX cameras can be put in a pocket. That's only true if you use their 16mm pancake lens, which still sticks out from the camera approximately an inch. So one of the very nice things about this camera is that it's extremely fast. It's got an electronic first curtain shutter. And an electronic first curtain shutter means that it can start taking the picture immediately when you press the shutter. So immediately to Sony means 20 milliseconds. One of the downsides of that is that if you're used to reviewing pictures right after you take them, or chimping as some photographers like to call it, you may look through the viewfinder, take a shot, look to the back of the camera to see the shot that you had taken, and you won't see the shot that you've taken. You'll see the live view of the camera again. So there's an option in the menus that you can go into, change it so you can see the review, but then that causes a lot of stuttering when you're actually trying to use the camera and take pictures, because it keeps switching in both the viewfinder and the LCD. There are a lot of options in these menus. It's actually one of the things that may be a downside about this camera, is that all of the menus are rather complicated. They do give you this tri-navi control that Sony calls, and the tri-navi control dial basically gives you a right control dial, a left control dial, and then a control wheel, which also has clicking positions. It can be a little confusing because as you move between different camera modes, it means that you have to remember, what does the left dial do, what does the right dial do, what does the wheel on the back do, what does the navigation button do. So in aperture mode, we have the aperture, the EV shifting, and then the ISO on a dial. This camera does have auto ISO, which a lot of people like to use now, but the auto ISO stops at ISO 1600. One of the things that this camera includes that the lower-end NEX series don't include is a built-in electronic OLED viewfinder. This viewfinder is integrated with the camera, so it's not a separate accessory that you have to put onto it. It's a very, very high-resolution 2.4 megapixel OLED screen. The screen in it is absolutely gorgeous. It's the best electronic viewfinder that I've looked through on any camera to date. The electronic viewfinders are always a little bit laggy behind. They have a little bit of smear to them, and in my opinion, they're not as good as looking through a full-frame camera's DSLR viewfinder. But for the mirrorless series, this is probably the best electronic viewfinder that you'll find. And the nice thing about that is they haven't skimped on the screen as well. So the screen has a 921,000 dot articulating screens. This camera has a very good build quality. Everything that you're touching is basically metal except for a couple of plastic backing pieces. And I see this camera as being great for any prosumer or budding professional that is getting into photography but doesn't necessarily want to make the investment in a full-size DSLR system. So the Sony NEX-7 will record video at 1080p, 60 frames a second, in the AVC HD format. This is a lot faster and a lot higher quality video than you'd usually get from a typical compact camera. It has a stereo microphone as well.
640 by 480, yeah.
Whoa!
Welcome to 2004.
The sound quality is just okay, but it does have a mic jack where you can use an external microphone. So the battery life in this camera is actually quite good for a mirrorless camera, especially with a large screen on it. Sony rates it for just over 400 shots, which goes down slightly if you use the electronic viewfinder a lot. So the pros for the Sony NEX-7 are, it has excellent DSLR level image quality and build quality, fast startup and operation, and a great electronic viewfinder and rear screen. So the cons are that the menus are a little confusing. You may be hunting through the menus to find the option that you're looking for, and you may not be sure what the control dials are actually doing because of the mode you're in has changed. The current E-mount lens lineup for these cameras is also rather limited. You've got a couple of choices of lenses, and very few of them are high or professional quality lenses. Also, the eye detection on the camera is really a major flaw because when you leave the camera on, you put it up to your eye, the viewfinder comes on, but this will keep the camera on even when it's around your neck and drain the battery. So you're always having to remember to turn the camera off every time you're done using it, or you'll come back to a dead camera. So all these things considered, the Sony NEX-7 is really a buy. It's great for replacing a DSLR. It's great as an only camera. It's got a lot of flexibility, and the only real downside is that it may be a little bit expensive. So I'll also have some sample pictures and videos up on my website at russell.expose.com. I'm Russell Tammany from twit.tv, and this has been my review of the Sony NEX-7.